Hi, and welcome to the Loan Officer Team Training Podcast. I'm Irene, your host, and I am so excited to have with me Christy Pessemier. Oh my goodness, she is so amazing in so many ways. You're going to love getting to know who she is and what she does. So welcome, Christy.
Thank you, Irene. It's great to be here.
I am super excited. So tell us the story, tell everyone else the story about how we met and how we know each other.
Yeah, we met through my husband, Tom Pessemier, who is a mortgage broker, and you were working as his coach. So that's how I met you.
Yeah. So, and you came to some of the events with him, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so while he was whiteboarding his plan, you were whiteboarding your plan. And what I love about Christy is that you are such an amazing copywriter. You have wonderful ideas. We became fast friends and we kind of mastermind together on some things, and we had such a good time doing it. And you've really helped me. The marketing copy end of everything was not my strong suit at all. And I'm learning more about it, but I've learned so much from you, Christy, in that area about what to say and how to say it. And now with ChatGPT coming out, it's a little bit easier to put in something and then come out with it. And I know you have a lot of work inside of ChatGPT as well. So I'll let you kind of just talk about what it is that you do, because I want loan officers and other people, not just loan officers, but other people to know that there are people like you out there that can help them. And everything doesn't have to just go through ChatGPT. We want someone that really knows how to write, people that know how to write, and the things that you're doing, Christy, and that you've done for years and years, that will never be replaced by ChatGPT or anything like that, because you're able to do things in a way that is, I don't want to call it old school because it's not old school, but I guess in today's world with ChatGPT, it could be called that, but it's so valuable. So tell us what you do and how you help people.
Sure. Yeah, I think you bring up some really good points about ChatGPT because obviously the whole world of copywriting and marketing is changing with that. I think the key is keeping the human element and that businesses are still able to have a strategy. And that's really where I come in. Obviously, my background is in copywriting, news reporting, right? I still write for magazines and publications. So there still is a demand for that and there still is a need for that. And a lot of that is because really it's helping the specialists, the people who have a lot of experience to stand out and help businesses grow. And that's really where I come in and help businesses, is where I'm looking at their entire marketing and I'm looking for holes and gaps and finding out what they can do in their strategy while they're also keeping the soul of their business and who they are. And it's very hard to do that when you're the one running the business, because not only are you busy, but it's hard to step outside your business and see it from an outsider's perspective. So I am able to do that, but also with my experience in copywriting and marketing and messaging strategy, I can take a look and I'm interviewing them pretty in depth, getting to know who they are, why they started their business and all of that. So I can see how their story plays into that strategy and what kind of things they might be missing out on that they didn't even see.
Yeah.
Hopefully that explains a little better what I do. Once people start working with me, the light bulb goes on and they get an idea for it.
Yeah. You look at the whole picture and you give great ideas of sometimes that extra little thing that the person might not be doing. I know you did that for me, was looking at things from a different perspective, like you said, an outside perspective. And we need that. We need the human connection.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something people are going to be drawn to more and more as this whole AI whirlwind and all the changes that are happening with AI, which are very exciting. And they're saving us tons of time. We're
Yes.
getting more productive, but we also need to be aware of, in some ways, more isn't better. And our audience doesn't have to be huge. We might have a very specific audience we're trying to reach. So we want to be very strategic in how we're doing that. And that's where you need an advisor who understands that, like me, that can come in and help people do that.
Yes. And I know you did that for me for quite a while. And it was so amazing when I would talk with you on the phone. It was like this light bulb went off in my head because you prompted me, you asked me questions, things like that. And you really helped me put great emails together. And we just did a lot of work together, which I was really appreciative of. And I tell everybody that I know about you because I think it's so important to have someone like you on their team to help them with marketing. And not everybody's a marketing genius. Like you said, most people are not thinking about that as much as they probably should be in their business because they're busy.
Sure. And I think a lot of the things, thank you for all the nice things you said, by the way, and I'm glad that was helpful to you. A lot of people don't realize too is that I work in conjunction with other marketers, and I've had a lot of clients that own marketing agencies, but they don't do what I do. So that's the nice part is it's not that I'm really working as competition, and a lot of who I'm working with are coaches and consultants. Loan officers are they're like if they're a loan officer coach, they're obviously a coach, but they are consultants most of the time. So they need somebody to really show how they specialize. And like you said, where I can help that light bulb go off. So they're not sounding cookie cutter like every loan officer that's out there. And I
Mhm.
do that. That's what I did with you too. I got to know you very well. And it was
Yes.
very important that you didn't sound like another loan officer coach out there because a lot of times when people are using AI, people are thinking, oh, it's easy and I can just get this out there. But then you sound exactly like your competition, and that's not what you want.
Right.
So the fun thing when you and I were working together is as I'm working on your messaging and your strategy and helping you with everything, and you know this because I would share this with you, I'd be writing your emails sometimes or helping you with different things and thinking, is this how Irene would say it? Is this how Irene thinks? And that is very important because another element with the AI is it authentic?
Hmm.
We need to ask ourselves that regularly. Obviously, the audience, they're not necessarily, when they're going on websites and different things, they're not saying, I want something authentic.
Hmm.
They're thinking about their problem. And
Yes.
they're thinking, I want to get a good rate on, my home financing, or I want to work with someone who answers all my questions and things like that. But it's the authenticity, the true human voice of it sounding like a real person that makes people trust you. Because
Yes.
with so much AI right now, people don't know who to trust and they're overwhelmed with it. They're excited about it, but they're also overwhelmed with it.
Yes. And you can get AI to sound like you if you use it over and over and you keep putting input into it and telling it all the different things that it should be changing to sound more like you. I've done that with AI. I put it into and I say, I want my voice, I want it to sound more like I sound. And the more you use it, the more it gets to know you. But it doesn't get to know you like a person does, and you can't it's not the same as the human interaction. I love AI. Don't get me wrong. I use it a lot to help me refine things, to help me if I take something it's in my voice and I'll ask it to make it shorter because I'm very wordy when I write, as you know. And so it's good for things like that. And it's really good for a lot of things, but it doesn't take away the need for a human interaction to help you.
Right. And that's a great point. A lot of people don't realize I am not against AI, and I will advise them often go spend some time on Chat GPT and play around and decide, say they need to do an about page on their website or they need to write about their services. I'll tell them to go play around and then come up with something and then bring it to me and I'll rewrite it in
Yeah.
their voice based on the interviews I've done with them. So that's the cool and exciting thing we can do is it becomes theirs. And when, depending on where the client's at, sometimes they want me to do all of their stuff and it's still authentic. It's still them because I'm not writing this, two loan officers are completely different people.
Yes.
If I'm writing for one loan officer that's in, say Nebraska, and then I'm writing for another one that's in New York, and maybe they specialize in different things, it's not going to sound the same because they have completely different stories.
Yes.
Exciting thing about it is I can really show what makes them unique. I can, based on the interview, I'm listening to their story, listening to who their favorite clients are, who they really like to work with. I can gear all of their messaging to attract those types of people
Hmm.
in their voice. And it can start with them exploring a little bit on AI. And so some of it, I might be doing all of the content for them, And then some, they may, maybe on based on their budget, they're not able to hire me to do all of it. So I do what's called a done with you approach, where they go and do the work through ChatGPT, and then I just fine tune it and make it sound like them.
That's great. I love that. You did that a lot for me too with I would have an idea and then you would fine tune it for me. And you fine tuned it very well. A lot of times you came up with everything for me because I didn't know. I have a hard time getting the things out of my head onto paper in a way that like it's not so wordy. I'm super, super wordy. That's bad self-talk. I shouldn't be saying I'm super wordy. I am working on that. And I do tell myself, you're not wordy. And so I have to change my self-talk about that. You know how I am about that. But I catch myself when I say I'm wordy. I naturally have a tendency to be that way, but it doesn't have to stay that way. So that's what you helped me with a lot too.
Well, and that is very challenging. A lot of people struggle with that. And it's one of the hardest things to do is to take content and make it clear and compelling in not a lot of words. I did a billboard for a real estate team, and they came to me and they said, we need 7 words, only 7 words, and people need to notice it when they're driving past at 70 miles per hour. It's a pretty tall order, but I did it and they were happy with it. It was hard. Not everybody could
Yes.
have done that. Obviously, I have experience doing those kinds of things. So just know that's normal to struggle with writing content and not being wordy. And that's probably one of the most common things I see is
Yeah.
that people struggle with it being wordy, and they don't know any better, but they make their content talk at the client, where it's become like a monologue, or they're thinking they need to say, "Oh, I have all this experience doing this, this, and that." And what happens is their audience comes on the website, they look at it, all of this text, and they just go, "Ugh, I have to think too hard. I'm going to go somewhere else." And that's what we want to prevent from happening. We have very compelling ways we can do that. And I do that with the StoryBrand framework. I'm StoryBrand certified.
Yeah. So tell us about StoryBrand. What does that mean, StoryBrand certified?
Well, first I have to give you credit, because the funny thing is, and I don't know if you remember this, but
I
you were the one
do.
that told me about StoryBrand.
Yes.
Obviously, we met through Tom, and I was going to all the events, but you thought it was so cool that I was a copywriter, and you said you should check out StoryBrand. So it was right when COVID happened. I went and signed up for their live stream, and then I paid for some private coaching, and it made total sense to me, and it went right along with my copywriting business. So I started applying it to what I was doing and seeing amazing results with my clients.
Yeah.
So then in 2023, I got certified as a StoryBrand. It was called a guide, and now we're called coaches. You can say guide too. And then also certified in Unreasonable Hospitality as a coach as well. So
That's
as far as, yeah, so as far as StoryBrand, it's a 7-part framework, basically, that is a proven framework that works very well for businesses. And what it does is it kind of flips marketing on its head, the traditional marketing, and makes it so the client is the hero and the business is the guide that's
uh,
helping the client to solve their problem. And what's happening in most websites is we're not speaking in terms of the problem, and we don't know how. Even just what I help people with is sometimes they're kind of going in the right direction. They may have heard of StoryBrand, they may have played around with it a little bit, but you change maybe just a few words, or you move things around, or you get a more compelling headline, and that can make all the difference. But people just don't know how to do that if they don't have the experience.
right.
It's all the elements of an effective story that every successful movie has. Like, if next movie you watch, pay attention and look at the main character, see if you can figure out who the guide is, and then figure out what the problem is. And then at the end, if it has a good ending, they get what they want. And so that's what we want to do with our clients, help them see that we can guide them to solve their specific problem and then have a happy ending. So their life can change through working with us.
I love that. And we start with the problem because that's what that's the hook, so to speak. I don't like
Right.
to use the word hook, but it gets their attention, the problem, because they're experiencing it. They feel that way. And that's where you start.
And I will say a lot of businesses struggle with feeling that's negative. They don't want to focus on the negativity. But again, it's that curse of knowledge businesses have to where they're looking at it from their point of view. And I understand them not wanting to be negative. But if you think about it, if I need plumbing, say my toilet isn't working, and I go on a website and they're saying, all this stuff about we're qualified with this, we've been doing plumbing for this many years, here's our team, and blah, blah, blah. But there's nothing in there about my toilet's broken, here's how we fix it, here is, why you can trust us to solve your problem, and we've already helped this many people, whatever. I'm going to feel like they don't really understand what I'm going through, and then I'll go somewhere else. So the thing people don't realize is when you don't speak in terms of the client's problem, you're not having empathy for them. So if you look at it like it's empathy, it actually is positive because we don't keep it at that negative. We put a little bit of negative in there. Don Miller describes it as like adding some salt to a recipe when you're baking cookies or something. You don't put too much in because the cookies are going to taste terrible. But you add a little bit in and it brings everything together. So it's the same thing.
Yeah. So that's the StoryBrand. And I think about Star Wars when I think about a movie that shows the problem and who the guide is. We all know who the guide is in Star Wars and who the hero is. I'm talking about the first one. The guide is Yoda. Yoda is the guide. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yoda is the guide. He's not the hero. Even though some people think he might be, he's not the hero. He's the guide. And who's the hero?
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah, it's Luke Skywalker.
Yes, that's right.
He's the one that that he's going to correct the situation down the road. So
right. Yeah. I think I was 10 the last time, and I haven't seen the most recent movies. That's going to be my homework to catch up on those because a lot of people do reference those. So
because it's so obvious in those movies.
Right.
But and I have a little thing up here. I think I dropped it and it might have broke, but I had a little Yoda about this big. And it was a little Yoda. And I always thought about that every time I was coaching or I'm coaching people or whatever. I'm just the guide. They're the ones that are coming up with the solution. They're the ones that are talking through. Sometimes people just need to talk things through while you're on the phone with them as a coach. And it really helps them come up with their own solution. And you ask questions and that's how it works. But the same thing as a trainer, you're trying to pull things out of people to find out what it is that they need. And you're the guide doing that. But there is a problem. Are you holding off on training your loan partners, your loan assistants, your team members and support staff on how to wow your clients? Are they getting that kind of training from you? You probably plan on training them if you get a few extra hours, but when does that happen realistically? And meanwhile, your team is doing the best they can with the information that they have. But this kind of training really doesn't exist anywhere else. When you do the training, that means you're not as responsive as you want to be with your clients and you're not hitting your closing and income goals as a loan officer. So how much is it costing you to not have a team that's properly trained how to wow clients and referral partners so that they only want to work with you because of the great experience that they're getting? We teach them how to use efficient step-by-step processes and systems that work, how to follow up so nothing falls through the cracks and loans close on time and even early, how to build wonderful relationships with clients, how to wow people so they go, man, that was an amazing experience. The members of his or her team are amazing. They're so on it. How to use scripts and dialogues for winning clients, setting expectations and communicating with clients so that you can prevent problems down the road. How to handle difficult clients, how to make clients feel appreciated and valued, and how to handle and overcome objections. It might be time to ask for some help. That's why we're here. Loan Team Training has our next live WOW training coming up. We train your team for you so you can focus on closing loans. Check it out at loanteamtraining.com for our next class. and see how many 5-star reviews we have from past WOW training participants and their loan officers who sent them at loanteamtrainingreviews.com. Remember, it's an interactive virtual training with live trainers, and we train any of your support staff that is communicating with clients and referral partners. Our sessions are 9 to 11:30 Pacific time. Check us out and sign your loan partner or team member up at loanteamtraining.com. So I have a question for you. I don't think I've ever asked you this. So I have a training company that has several offerings. It has 3 for sure, and we're coming out with more offerings of how we can solve people's problems. If I talk about one problem one time, say they don't have the time to train someone. So that's one problem, is they don't have time. So we take that off their plate. Another problem is that they don't like training people. Like, that's not their highest and best use. That could be another one. Another problem could be that their team doesn't have a sense of urgency, and we're trying to put that in it. Can I mention different things, different problems at different times, or do I have to stick to the same problem? And the second question to that is, if I do ask the same question all the time, I feel like I'm only reaching one segment of loan officers who have that specific problem. But if I'm talking about different problems that most loan officers face, there's still going to be somebody who doesn't have that problem. Like, maybe they have a big team already that's beautifully trained and they don't need us. And that's okay. We're not for everybody, right? But is it good to mention different problems?
That's a great question. Those are what you would call the external problems if you're talking about the StoryBrand framework.
Yes.
And yes, you do reach a lot more clients who are in different places with different problems.
Mm-hmm.
So with that is more like a lot of what you can do. Say if you're doing something on a website, you might be listing some of those to show empathy. Are you struggling with, like, what are some things a loan officer would be struggling with if they need you?
Lack of time to grow.
Okay.
Because they're busy involved with the loans. That's one of them.
Yeah, and then you were saying too something about urgency.
Yes, their team doesn't really move
Right.
at a quick enough pace, they don't have the sense of urgency, or they don't really know how to talk to clients very well on the phone. Like, they do, but they could get a lot better at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they may have both of those, or they may have one or the other. And there's nothing wrong with listing those, because, especially too, because people scan websites and they scan ad content. If you use like bullet points or like little icons that are next to things like that, it can help people to see if it would be a good fit for them to have their team sign up, or they sign up their team for your classes. And it helps them to see that, yeah, I'm struggling with this problem, and Irene and her team understand what I'm going through. I think the main thing is everyone has an internal problem, and that's a feeling. So that is the main thing, that there's usually one that stands out above the others. That can be very challenging, surprisingly challenging to find that if you don't work with someone like me who really helps to dig deeper, because a lot of times people think they find it, but they haven't. Right. So it's I tell people that often their head will hurt after the first session, because many of them haven't taken the time to dig that deep and really go back, to from scratch to the foundation, and ask themselves these really challenging questions that need to be asked so they can be more clear in their messaging. And that's really what I help with.
Yeah. It's so great. I remember some of our calls. I felt like so much lighter afterwards. Not everybody needs one-on-one type of coaching. I love one-on-one type of coaching, and that's the kind of coaching that I got from you, was one-on-one. If you're in a group, that's great too, but it's a different type. It's not specific to what exactly you're dealing with. And that's why I like a combination of both. But you will do that with people, and take time and get to their exact issue of what's really holding them back on their marketing.
Yeah, and I really enjoy helping people with that. It gives me a lot of satisfaction, because people will often bounce things off me. They'll think deeply on a topic or they'll work on something and then they'll ask me, so does this line up, or what about this or this? And like, they're not going to be able to figure that out on their own. They don't have the background I have. They don't have again, it's that whole thing too of me seeing their business in a different way. And so it breaks my heart when there's these businesses out there. I mean, I see them all the time, and a lot of it, they cannot figure out why they can't get more of their dream clients. And they desperately want them. They're not getting the business they want. And then they're spread thin. They're trying to go in every direction and focus on everybody. And that doesn't work either.
Right.
And I think people are just tired. They're just tired because there's so much noise out there.
There is.
Everything is just coming after people all the time. And I just finished reading the book Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. And
Not yet.
it's very good. Highly recommend it. And he talks a lot about that of just, and this was written in, I think, 2019. It's even worse now. Just all of the digital ways we are bombarded.
Yes.
And it made me realize, just from what I do, how even more important it is that what we put out there has value and that it fits the right audience, because we don't need to add to the noise. We just need to speak to our client in a way they understand. And like you said, some people are not the right fit for you. So
Right.
great. At least we've figured that out. Let's find the people that are a great fit.
Yes.
And instead of talking at them and talking over them or talking too much, let's have a conversation and let's move forward and get more of those people the help they need.
And when you market with the problem without going too deep into the problem, but it will resonate with certain people, those are your clients, the ones that are having that problem. It's not for everybody. And I knew that when I created this training program. This isn't for everybody. Loan team training, with what the offerings that we have, they're not for everyone. And we have 3 different classes for 3 different types of issues.
Right.
And so, and it's okay with me. I've known from day one that it's not for everybody, but the ones that it is for, they really get helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you've gotten so much clearer and more compelling in what you're telling your audience, so they see that they really need your training. Because to have loan partners and loan assistants and your team working behind you all on the same page, supporting you and your business, that's a big part of the whole, success people have. Those loan officers out there that are successful. So the world needs what you do. For sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I love, I was talking to Neil Dingra recently and listening to what he was saying, because he's our coach in social media, and he's my coach in social media. And also we have a forward mastermind group that we come up with different ideas, and we share with each other what's working and what's not working. And the things that he talks about, they really have enlightened me and helped me to see. I've always been a person, and you know this about me already. Most people that know me know that I'm here to serve people, that I really want to help people succeed. It's not for the money. It's not, that'll all come. It's more about helping somebody and then seeing their progress and seeing how they're uplifted in their success. And what he has said to me, and I've heard other people say it, but for some reason I was ready to listen to it when he said it to me. And that is, if you are if you're not telling people what you do for a living, you're being selfish. Like, you have to look at it as you're being selfish if you're keeping what you do and how it will help people to yourself, and you don't tell people about it. And not in a way that's a salesy type of way, but in a way that resonates with them and says, you know what, I have that problem. And so if the beginning of a video that I do, it needs to talk about something that's going to get their attention at the beginning. And you don't do that because it's some way of marketing or whatever. You do it because it helps them see that what you have is a solution to their problem.
I love that. That's such a different way of looking at things, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like hiding your light from the world.
Exactly.
The world really needs your light.
Yes.
Instead of, I think people get hung up on the sales thing. But if you have something that can solve someone's problem, then it needs to get out there, and you don't have to do it in a high pressure salesy way. That doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely do it in a compelling way. And I'm glad you bring that up because that's something people worry about that I work with. They'll often say, I need a bio, and the bio is a part of the whole foundational work I do because we work on their branding and their messaging, and then I write a whole guide for them that they can use in all their marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows them how to talk to their audience, and then I do a home landing page. And those are usually the first components that people need to redo. And then we have the future phases, but basically it helps them to grow their business in a healthy way through marketing that's proven and effective.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just they're so worried about the bio that they're going to sound like they're bragging.
Yeah.
But I can help them to put their best self forward to show how they're qualified while at the same time speaking in terms of their clients' problems with empathy. So it's like I can brag for them in a way that's not really bragging.
I
They
get
don't
it.
feel bad about it because I wrote it for them, and so they trust me.
Yes. Oh. So tell us a little bit about your background, Christy. I know what it is, but for the people listening or watching, I would love for them to know how you got to where you are now with copywriting and where you started and why you do it, because I know you love it.
Yeah, so I actually started writing news articles when I was 15 years old. Switched high schools, and the high school I switched to had one of the top newspapers in the state. It was basically run like a job. They published a newspaper every week, and the students would come after hours and do layout. I thought that was so cool. So you had to be voted in, and I applied and I got rejected. So I went to the advisor, and I'm glad I had the courage to do that and just asked why I was not voted in. And she said, "Oh, you don't know how to write a proper news article, and you don't understand how journalism works. So we can't have anybody on staff that doesn't know how to do it. So you need to take college level journalism, and we have that here at the school." So, and she actually taught it. So
Wow.
I kind of fast tracked it, went to journalism camp that summer, and then I took the journalism course, which was amazingly just powerful. It had all the elements of journalism, how to write an article properly, how to have, like you were talking about earlier, the hook and what makes an effective news article. And we got graded on it, how to interview. We learned ethics. Then we how to write feature articles, like every element of a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great. I learned so
Wow.
much. And I applied again and I got voted in.
Awesome.
I, you know, we had to basically interview people outside the high school, and we had to sell ads, write and sell ads outside the high school for local businesses and things like that. So it was a really good experience for me. And then I went on to become my college's newspaper editor. And then when my kids were young, I worked as a news reporter. And then I started doing freelance writing on the side as I was raising my kids. And I did a decent amount of direct response copy as well. So then in 2019, I started my own business, writing for business owners that needed help with their websites, with their marketing content and ad writing. And then, as I said earlier, in 2021, took the StoryBrand course and then got certified in 2023.
Yes. And now you're also certified in unreasonable hospitality. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I became certified in unreasonable hospitality because to me it just made sense. I saw so many times with clients where here I am, I'm helping them get leads in the door, but their customers weren't coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the point of bringing in leads if your customers aren't coming back?
Right.
So really some people have heard of unreasonable hospitality. Most people who have just rave about it because the book is amazing. Will Guidara is a great speaker. I heard him speak and I was really hooked and I read the book. It really resonated with me. And to me, it just makes sense to pair the story brand marketing and messaging strategy that I do along with unreasonable hospitality because you want to speak to your clients with empathy. You want to be able to have messaging that really resonates with them. And then you want to treasure them. You want to take care of them. You want to elevate their experience.
Yes.
There is not one business or company I can think of that could not use that. And we can all improve what our clients experience with us.
Absolutely. And that's what we do for loan officers in the WOW training. But we do it
Right.
with their teams so
Exactly.
that it starts with their team, and then they can take it even further and do it, for the whole team.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
powerful when you like, I love that you call it wow training because when you get your clients saying wow, you know you're on the right track.
Yes. Yeah, I tried to think of what to call it, and that just fit because that it
Mhm.
when people say wow, there's several reasons they say wow. If I had to call it anything, I call it a communication course, but it's not just communication. It's systems, it's processes, it's doing things the same way every time. It's mindset, it's teamwork. All of those things are involved. And you don't get someone to say wow about you unless you have different things happening throughout the process, the loan process. It's not just what happens at the beginning, it's what happens all the way through the process, the way people are talked to, the way that they are felt to be heard and seen as clients, and how important they are. All of that is part of the wow experience. And it's part of what you do with Unreasonable Hospitality as well, is you're taking it and going very, very deep with the business owner, right?
Right. Yeah. And I love that you talk about systematizing it because really that's the key.
Yes.
A big area I see there's a weakness with businesses is how do they welcome their clients? Because so many times they're thinking, you know, great, let's get started. To really stop and think, like, that's a new client. You want them coming back. What can you do to really elevate that experience?
Yeah.
But obviously, there's that. But then, if you're doing a great job welcoming them, but then you're not finishing it out right, or maybe there's a messy middle in there and you're not making sure you're communicating well with them, or your team knows how to answer their questions and things like that. You just don't want anything to fall off. So that's what I work with the clients that I work with on that is basically let's go through all the touch points.
Hmm.
Let's figure out what do you do first. And there's often way more touch points than they realize. It's, really getting those fleshed out. And then once you get those out, then you can figure out how to improve them. And you don't need to try and do them all at once. You can focus on a few at a time, but
Hmm.
just a little bit of improvement can make a huge difference.
Yes.
Now I'm doing consulting with that, but eventually I'm going to be doing workshops and I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's going to be really fun. Are they going to be in person or?
Both virtually and in person, I'll probably do a little bit of both.
That'll be great. You make sure to let me know when the in-person one is.
Okay, I will.
That'll be so fun. So I know you have a lot of really good habits that you do. You exercise every day, you walk, you hike, you and your husband Tom, you go on camping trips and you take your dog and all the fun things that you do. But you have a routine. And I always like to talk about people who are successful. I like to talk about what their routines are. And so what is your routine for keeping your body fit, not just your body, but your mind as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, like you said, I do exercise regularly, and I think that's key because that's taking care of your body, but it also helps your mind to stay
Hmm.
focused as well. Something I do pretty regularly is called morning pages. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. There's a book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way, and I've done this for decades. But basically, first thing in the morning, you have a notebook, and it's just stream of consciousness writing. You don't read back on what you wrote. You don't edit it. You just write on the page and you just unload your mind. And she recommends you do 3 pages. If I skip a few days, sometimes it'll end up being 15 pages. But it blows me away what comes from that. I get a lot of clarity. It also helps to get stuff out of my mind. So I don't feel like my mind is cluttered throughout the day. It helps me
Hmm.
to focus better. But I also get a lot of aha moments and conclusions. And I think even if someone doesn't consider themselves as a writer, it's a great practice to have and it's a great habit because it can help you sort of step away from yourself a little bit and just let the, writing go. And I think a lot of times we think by writing in
Yes.
powerful ways. So there's many times I'll look at the pages and go, wow, I didn't know I felt that way about that. Or
Huh?
there's an answer to that problem. But a lot of it's just, it just helps me focus my thoughts and move on to the next step in my day. So I would say that's a big habit, secret to my success.
Do you do it in a journal type of format? Like, are you leaving that for the future, or is it more just to do kind of a brain dump and get things off your mind that nobody ends up seeing?
Yeah, it's more of a brain dump kind of
Mm,
thing. Sometimes, I've looked back on some of them and it's they're nice to read back on,
yeah.
just sometimes you may want to just write observation about what's around you. And then a lot of times too, I'll add a gratitude list onto that as well. And it's, the power of gratitude lists,
For sure.
especially daily ones. It's very powerful. And I think a lot of times people think, oh, I don't have time for that or I'm busy. Just try it for a
Hmm.
week and see how it changes your life.
For sure.
Write down 5 things specifically you're grateful for. Don't just write, I'm thankful for my bed, I'm thankful for my house. And
Yeah.
write about somebody that changed your life and how and why you're grateful for that. And then write about something you wouldn't normally write about maybe in your life that's changed recently. And then write about something that may have seemed like a misfortune that ended up turning into that brought a lot of good things into your life. And that's kind of
Hmm.
specific way that you can find different things to be thankful for.
I love that. I know my husband Kevin has a gratitude journal. He does it every night. He will not go to bed until that's written out. He writes down, he keeps track of how he exercises because he walks a bunch of miles every day and swims and stuff. But he also keeps track in his journal of, and I never see it. I don't look at it or anything, but someday I'll look at it and think, wow, it was a lot more powerful than I ever thought when he was sitting there writing in it. It doesn't take him long, but he always does that. And that's a really good habit to have at the end of the night. Because then it helps you go to sleep too with
That's
positive
great. Yeah.
thoughts. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it changes how you look at the world. And I try to tell people this a lot because I think it's easy to forget. The the news and what you're reading out there is negative. Well, that's because those headlines get more views.
Yes.
I used to write news articles and that I know that like what engages people better, unfortunately, is the negative. So it doesn't mean that that's the reality or that's the world. Yeah, bad things happen, but there's so many good things happening. And
Yes.
it's important to remember that and just limit. Obviously, we need to be aware of what's going on, but limit how much you're exposing yourself to. And I think it's better to read the news as opposed to watching it as much
Mm-hmm.
because it's more fantastical and dramatic and that kind of thing. And it can seem, there's been studies done that showed people who were at a traumatic event that happened. I think it was at the Boston Marathon bombing. People
Uh-huh.
that were there actually had less PTSD than people who watched news reports about it.
That's
I don't
just,
know if it was that event specifically, don't quote me on that, but it was something like that.
mm-hmm.
Important to remember that just I think that's a big success secret is just to limit how much negative you allow into your life
I agree.
with a gratitude list, or at least if you limit it, add a gratitude list to it.
15 years ago, it is 15 years now that I think about it, I stopped watching the news, reading the news. I still know what's going on, basically, not everything, but I know a few things because I'll catch it here and there, or I'll review it really quick just to see what's going on. But I will not get caught up in that negativity because, especially with social media, it's going to keep, if you watch things like that, it's going to keep showing you more of that stuff. And so you don't want to see it. Yeah.
Right. And the other thing too is, I can't use the news as a source for articles I write. I still write for publications because it's not always accurate.
Yes. Yeah. It used to be.
Right, but it's just take it with a grain of salt. And obviously, it's important to be aware of what's going on, but just I mean, like you always talk about, our mindset is so important.
Hmm.
It's really important that we protect that.
Those are two great tips to do for people that are successful. Those are good things. Write it down, have a stream of consciousness, writing it down, and then just, it's so good to start our day out with the right thinking, the right, some people, well, anybody could benefit from looking at that first before they start their day and really thinking about their self-talk. I know I listen to self-talk while I'm getting ready in the morning, or I'll listen to a good podcast that's positive that will help me. I don't always listen to the podcast while I'm getting ready because I can't take notes. And I really need to take notes when I'm listening to something for it to really sink in. Listening to self talk every day has changed my life and many people's lives who do it.
Right.
It's really important. And to stop ourselves when we find ourselves saying something like I did earlier about, you don't want to keep saying those same things to yourself that really aren't serving you, that are just going to make you feel like you're less than, and you just change it. You change it. Like when I said I'm wordy. And so I can change that to I work on minimizing words in a clarifying way every single day. So I can say that instead of I'm wordy. And that's a success habit.
Yeah, exactly. And that touches on cognitive behavioral therapy, and that you just because you have a thought doesn't mean it's yours. It doesn't mean you have to accept it. And you can choose how you reframe that thought. And that's another thing too. I think a lot of people don't realize they feel guilty for their thoughts, but we all have control if we accept them or not, and if we allow them really to get into our heads. So yeah, replacing that with positive and reframing it is huge.
Yes. And sometimes fear. I talk about fear because fear can hold us back about so many things. And I've noticed maybe it's because I'm more aware of it now, but I catch myself when I start to get fearful about something or something and I see it's an obstacle that's going to hold me back. it I catch myself, and I'm really aware that it's fear that's causing that. So then I go back in my self-talk and I think, okay, what am I thinking or saying that's causing that fear to get worse? For a while, I was watching shows that were talking about like the FBI Most Wanted, things like that. And I had to stop watching that stuff because I started to get fearful when I traveled. And
Mm,
I thought, no, I'm not going down that path. So it really made a difference when I stopped watching it. So what we allow ourselves to think about and see and watch really has an effect. And we all know that. But I had an awakening about it just in the last 6 months, just realizing that there's certain things that, yeah, I have my self-talk every day and that's all great. And it helps me. But if I'm exposing myself to things that are making me fearful or making me worry, and I'm not a worrier by nature, and that's what really got to me is I thought, you're worrying, you're fearful. That's not you, Irene. What is causing this? And I had to realize that it was what I was watching on TV or articles I was reading, like an article that I would read or just anything like that. And I didn't want to do that anymore. So I stopped it. Yeah.
I interviewed a very high profile person for a magazine feature article I did, and she said something that really got me. And it, I think, is a big secret to her success is that she does not watch dysfunctional television. That's the way
There
she
you
described
go.
it. And I've thought of that many times since, to where maybe I'll watch a little bit of something, or watch the whole thing and go, yeah, that was dysfunctional television.
I like that word.
Kind of like eating junk food, like I didn't really need that. And it can reel you in because a lot of times I like watching thrillers and things like that. But
Yeah.
some stuff, again, it goes back to the negative. I don't need to let that into my life. There's other things I can watch and other habits I can do, things that I enjoy that make me happier.
Yes. And your day ends better when you do those other things that bring you joy and things that make you happy. So, what words of encouragement do you have for loan officers today? Do you have any words of encouragement for You're married to a loan officer, you're married to a branch manager, he runs his own business. And so, what do you see that's happening out there that would be a word of encouragement?
Sure. I think, again, it's what you do is very unique. There's no one else out there like you. And the world needs to see that. They need to see your talents. They need to hear your voice in its own unique way. And I love bringing that out of people because a lot of times, I'll talk with someone and I realize they'd be great on video, but they're not on video at all. So things like that, just to really think about what would you do in the rest of this year that scares the heck out of you, that you really want to do, and then maybe just dip a toe in the water and try it out. Because what do you have to lose? I mean, back to that saying, it's we only live once. So, and I think that goes back to the mindset thing as well, that we can think positive thoughts, but acting on them is even more powerful because there's plenty. I love that. I've actually got the quote on my whiteboard here by my desk, but it's the whole idea that there's somebody out there who has had it worse than you.
Mm-hmm.
They're succeeding right now because they took action.
Yeah.
So we can continue to get ready and to overthink. And I would say just, loan officers may be more prone to that because, you guys are really good at being thorough at problem solving. So really thinking about how you can grow your business, what risks can you take, and maybe take one small step towards that, and it might turn into something bigger. But that, I would say, the world needs you, so get out there more. It might be a little bit of a jumbled message, but that's what came to my mind. I hope that all makes sense.
No, it made total sense. I love that. I absolutely love that. One step at a time. That's the key to success. And do something that makes you uncomfortable, that scares the heck out of you, and just take one step towards that. You don't have to do it all at once. I love that. Yeah.
I think fear can be a thing that protects us, but can also be a thing that shows us what we need to do.
Yes. It can propel us as well.
Right.
Yes. So, well, thank you for being here today. I really enjoyed our conversation. And I know that there's loan officers out there that really needed to hear what you had to share today. So I appreciate you taking your time. If there's anybody out there that wants to reach out to Christy, we're going to put all of her information in the show notes. So you'll have access to her website and your social media handles and all of the things that ways that they can reach you. So thank you again for being here today, Christy.
Thank you for having me, Irene. It was fun.